The word cron job is quite a simplification of what at Kastle we aim to build with covenants. I think we are in a time right now where there's not only human actors having a wallet and taking care of funds, right? And these constraints are actually quite useful if you have something transacting on your behalf, like an agent.
Welcome to X6IM podcast, where we dive into the cutting-edge ideas on decentralization, blockchain, and the new monetary systems.
Welcome back to X6IM podcast. I'm Ankit, and my guest today is Leo from Kastle Wallet, a prominent wallet within the Kaspa ecosystem. We brought on Leo today to talk about covenants, and not just what they are under the hood, but what covenants are about to unlock for all of us, for families, for businesses, and for you and I, everyday people who just want crypto to feel more useful, more human, more ours. This is the covenant story for humans, the real world impact that's coming to Kaspa. Leo was kind enough to build a beautiful little demo application just for this session. We can actually see how covenants are going to work with simple Lego-like explanation. You're going to love this. But here's the best part. Even if you absolutely know nothing about covenants right now, you're still going to enjoy this video.
Supported by IGRA Labs, Atomic Programmability on a Kaspa blog tag. Cascade. Use your Kaspa without selling it.
Leo, good to meet you and thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, Ankit. Nice to meet you all. And it's a pleasure. It's really a pleasure. I've been following you guys for quite some time. And I was wondering when I will have the chance.
Oh, beautiful. Beautiful. Leo, thanks for the kind words. Typically, I think what I try to do is try to discuss technology later on. Firstly, I try to set up the base for the audience, right? So I want to set the base here. I want to get into a little bit of your background and the company that's been building Kastle Wallet, right? So tell us what your role is and, the company that's been building Kastle Wallet for how many years now?
Okay, so behind Kastle Wallet, there's like quite a great company that I have the pleasure to work for since 5 years. The company is called Enforceable. It's based in Hong Kong, which is also where I'm based right now. And we are specialized in Web3 infrastructure, from miners to validators to RPC services. And we covered many networks over the years. We started mining Kaspa during 2022 because we have several friends of ours that were telling us it was an interesting project, that it was like following some of the core values that Bitcoin is based on. And that caught our attention, and we deep dive in it. And within, I guess, like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, we were already in the operation side of things. Then what happened? Since on the side we were also helping several different businesses in other crypto projects to build their own applications, components, with our expertise in design and development, we saw an opportunity to bring a great wallet experience within the Kaspa ecosystem. And we said, okay, why not trying to build an extension wallet and then see how people will react and how they will perceive it. It went great. And here we are.
Yeah, no, it's also awesome. So Forball, how do you say it? Forball, is it the right way?
Forball, Forbole.
I see. Forball is the company that's building the wallet. What is specifically your role within the company?
Yeah, so my role within the company is the head of product. So I followed all the product lines since when I started this role. Before I was a software engineer, and I was taking care of like writing smart contracts for different chains, from Cosmos to Solana to Ethereum. And then I gradually moved to this other role as the time became mature and I was like ready to do so.
Right. And before this recording, we were discussing that Forbol was a validator or is still a validator across many different chains. So you guys were
Exactly,
first
exactly.
validator in Solana, did you say?
Yeah, Solana was our one of our first networks. We joined as Genesis validator, so within the original set
Genesis,
of
right.
validator.
Interesting. Right.
Yeah, it was 2020, 2019. Uh, yeah, my
Right.
the co-founders of Forbol met the founder of Solana before he was launching the network.
So Anatoly, right? That's the guy, right?
Yes, 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 yes. They personally know him.
Right. Beautiful. And
Yeah,
now you guys are also doing validation for Canton, which is obviously a big, like it's on the news last couple of months because
correct.
ETCC
Correct.
connections right there. But
Yeah.
that's amazing. I see. So that's your background. Now, so you've been the guy who's leading Castle Wallet. That's been your role for last 5 years. Oh well, not 5 years. Last couple of years.
I would say so. We started building Castle around the end of 2024. So I guess since then,
Right.
since
So
then.
year and a half. Well, just over a year. The second thing I wanted to ask you is, I love competition. I'm a big supporter of healthy competition. Just in your own words, how do you see Castle differentiate from Caspium or Casware? Right. Those are the other two wallets in the ecosystem.
Yeah. So as I was saying before, we started like looking at the wallets that were like already in Kaspa in the Kaspa ecosystem when we joined, and we discovered that at least for our standards, the interfaces were not super easy to navigate from a let's say a less experienced user point of view, and they were quite techy, I would say. So what if Kaspa become this like increasing like network usage? There are like more user comings, and the only thing they see is like those very clinky and difficult wallets to interact with. We wanted to give them the same experience they have when they use Phantom on Solana or when they use MetaMask on Ethereum or Rabbi on Ethereum. So we thought, okay, let's put our expertise at use, and let's build the most thoughtful UX we can do. The minimal, a simple UI, pair it with a simple UI that we have distilled from many years of experience, and try to not overwhelm the users that much. So we won't put many informations other than the essential one, the critical ones that you need. And then from that base, we expand it by integrating different protocols. We don't make any preferences. We just integrate everyone. As soon as they are legit and they do a great job, we are keen to help them to be discovered by the users that we have and by the broader ecosystem. And yeah, our vision for Castle, I would say, is to be this super app that is the gateway for all the Kaspa ecosystem. So ideally, a user come, see Kaspa, see Castle, download Castle, and then he access all the application in there.
Yeah. Yeah. And you don't have any DEX integration right now, right? Like MetaMask.
Right now, so we deliberately skipped the integration of the KRC20 marketplace because we were thinking of actually having an explore page. We are actually building an explore page within the mobile wallet with which people will be able to access all the applications from in-app browser view. What we did is that we focused on layer 2 integration at first. So you said, okay, let's go integrate Casplex layer 2, which was the first one coming. We first did the basic work to wire up the transfers and the asset display. And then we followed up with the bridge. So right now you can use the bridge to bridge Caspa from layer 1 to Casplex layer 2. And then we also integrated the bridge for the KRC20 and the NFTs as well. Lately, the last thing we have integrated was the swaps. So we actually integrated the Zillow swap as a provider. So you can actually use the mobile wallet to trade tokens that are living on Zillow's. And we're in the process to integrate more providers. Right now, we are testing the integration with Kaspa.com. And as soon as there are like more DEXs, we will integrate them. We'll integrate them all.
Yeah.
We take our time.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I was going to say, I wasn't aware of the DEX integration. with Zealous. So that's great. Anything on the wallet itself you want to mention before we get into covenants and discuss this exciting topic of covenants?
Yeah. Well, I would say that we are in the process of integrating IGRA. It's already live. It's already live, both testnet and mainnet. So you can already see it within the interface. We are working on the bridge integration, which is slightly different than the one for Casplex. And then as soon as all the protocols deploys their application, we will follow up. I think it will be quite a quick move, consider that all the UI and UXs are in place. And from there, we will see. We have a lot of plans. Our roadmap is quite tight and dense. We have a lot to accomplish in this year, but I can't share much because my team will kill me otherwise.
Yeah, come on, you gotta share now. Just on the bridge, so you are using, I'm assuming, Curve Bridge for the native Kaspa and Cat Bridge for the KRC20.
Correct. We just integrated those, and it was like the most straightforward solution. Plus, we had a great relationship with Cat Bridge Builders, which are the team behind Nacho, etc., and also the guys that organized the Kaspa Experience, the conference in Berlin in September.
Yeah.
And since we met there and we discovered what they were doing, I thought it was like the most natural path, like collaborating and join forces to push the ecosystem forward together, right?
All right, let's move forward to our exciting new world of covenants. Now, we did a video actually a couple of weeks ago, 2 weeks ago. Christina did a video explaining what covenants are, why Bitcoin has not implemented covenants, and BIP 119. I think they've talked about it for some time. I'll put up a link somewhere here for people to see if they haven't watched the video. So let me ask you this, how do you quickly define covenants? Like, the focus for me is covenants from the lens of Kastle wallet.
I would say they are like some programmable constraints that people can apply on daily basis to their transactions. A set of rules that can define how the transaction are delivered to the receivers, basically. Something more a bit more complex and stratificated than a normal transaction, basically.
Right. It's a set of rules, right, that introduce a little bit of programmable spending conditions, essentially, right?
Exactly. They are embedded in UTXOs.
Directly
and the coolest thing is that they are enforced at protocol level, at consensus, and they are verified by all the nodes of Kaspa. And the great thing is that they cannot be changed once you have set them.
Yeah.
So unlike it might happen in EVM-based chains, where you have a contract with a mutable state that can be changed anytime, covenants are like set in stone, so completely trustless. Once they're there, and they can be verified by anybody. And I think it's a cool thing also. Maybe one day you will have the possibility to have an explorer for covenants and see what people are saying. And you can verify directly if what they said about their covenants is correct by just checking them on.
That's a good
chain.
idea, actually. Yeah. Governance is so new. There's not a lot of, there's been a lot of chatter, right? Bitcoin community has been discussing governance for a long time, though they haven't, as I said, implemented it, right? Why do you think Bitcoin community hasn't implemented governance?
I think we can distill this in like one of the best design principle there is, which is less is more. So by doing less things, you prevent any kind of attacks, and you have to focus on maybe what Bitcoin does best, which is like just moving value. Plus, I would say the developers community of Bitcoin is that huge that to reach consensus on something like that, I think it will take quite some time. I don't really mind if they didn't implement it there. That gives room for Kaspa to shine on this way and to test different things that haven't been tested in Bitcoin yet. So I think this was the main drive. I think it happened also with many other proposals over the course of the last 10 years, let's say.
Yeah, no, that's Well put. I think the way I think about it, exactly what you said, actually, it's the maximal minimalism, right? I think that's what Bitcoin approach has been, that they're trying to follow through since the inception of Bitcoin, right?
Yeah.
Which is great. And Kaspa, as you say, it's sort of moving in a different direction, which is great to see. What are you most excited about? Now Kaspa, I think the testnet is already up and running, going mainnet in May some stage, right? So what are you most excited about before we get into different applications, how the wallet needs to think about
Yeah.
challenges, the infrastructure?
Like, I think the composability between different covenants, different constraints and rules that you can apply is what excites me the most, because now you can have some sort of programmability, right? On the layer one, without touching the layer two. I think layer twos are great for all the stuff that we already know that is possible on other networks. But this is something that is like completely pure and lives on the layer one, that nobody has to. I like the fact that nobody has to put trust on Castle to use covenants. We will just be a cool interface to compose covenants, but the fact that they are immutable and they can't be touched by anybody gives, I would say, also the any kind of users will be agreeing with me that they will feel quite safe in using those. Whenever they trust and they have to transfer money to someone and they set those constraints, they know those constraints cannot be changed by anybody else, and not even by themselves. So I was actually thinking maybe at some point, I don't know, we will run a competition and see who will build the most crazy use case with this few out with these few covenants we have available at the very beginning. It would be very nice to see the creativity of the broader community and use.
I mean, I've spent a little bit of time thinking through this, and I was like, man, there's so many things you can really do. Some of things we'll get into today, how, it sort of applies to different profiles, like families to businesses to, a few other types of things we can discuss, or we will discuss today. But yeah, I think that the broader implications, I think we'll still have to see when, where the creativity shines. So let's quickly discuss about the infrastructure part first before we get into the application side of things. So what do you guys have to do on your side to make the wallet ready for the mainnet launch of Covenants, right? When it happens, whatever time frame it happens, right? I'm sure there's a bit of work you guys have to do.
I think we will have to support the different opcodes
Right.
to that are like codified in the KIP 17 for the covenants, pretty much as we did for the KRC20 and the other protocols that we integrated that lives on the layer one. And I would say infrastructure-wise, that's the least difficult part, because it doesn't involve UI and UX. The biggest part will be how do we present covenants to the users to make them super easy to use. I already have some ideas. I will see if my designer accepts that or not. But she is much better than me in like finding solutions for this kind of thing. So I'll put all the responsibility on her. I will just like see, okay, as a user, I might be wanted to use them in this way and this way, and she will take care of that. So I would say most of the time will be spent on that side. I think probably the first thing we will update will be the extension wallet, so that we will allow third-party developers to use Castle to sign transactions and sign UTXOs for covenants. We already received a few requests, and I think that's quite straightforward to implement. And later on, we will move towards the mobile side of things, which is where things get more exciting. You can that's where creativity kind of shine. On your phone, and you can set up different things.
Yeah. What about, like, I guess just on the infrastructure bit, like, I'm sure you'll have to do a little bit of work on the transaction construction side. You'll have to do some sort of governance state management, right? Not similar to account-based state management, but in this, you'll have to do some sort of state management. And then obviously, as you say, the bigger change will be on the UI front. That's where I think we'll see the differences between different wallets, how they all design different type of applications that can be done, and which one they prioritize, given the space is very limited on the wallets. So yeah, anything I guess you can explain on the core infrastructure side that you'll have to do in terms of reading these rules from the consensus, or I mean, I don't know if you've spent time thinking about it.
Well, actually, I didn't because that's like not really what I take care of. But I can tell you that we will definitely have to expand our infrastructure, our backend. Like right now, the Castle, especially the mobile backend, is quite lean, and we kept that on purpose because we wanted to see first the traction, and then we wanted to commit more if there was the possibility to do so. Right now we have many things that requires us a bit more of backend operations, such as the IGRA bridge. Then we want to increase the performances on the mobile side, so we might have a caching layer for the data to make everything like super lightning speed. I think we might dedicate a space. Probably we will have to dedicate a space also for governance management, and that. I saw there are like also a few KIPs, one KIP more that takes care of like matching covenants with IDs, to not lose them when there are like some UTXOs consolidation. If you like leave covenants there for like a long time. So I think also to have, let's say, some sort of indexing of the covenants on chain, because for each user you will have like different set of covenants. You will need to like actually index them and allow users to actually get them on the wallet
That's
itself.
what we were saying about transaction construction, because you'll have to construct on the wallet side, right?
Yeah. The construction is not a problem. You can construct it at the moment you do it.
Right.
The point is that with covenants, since you might have like some time locks, and some like some time locks, basically for the time locks, they will live there for, I don't know, years. So if we are not the one indexing them for the users, they won't be able to actually see them in the wallet at any moment. So that's something we have to do actually.
All right. So let's move forward, right? So I wanted to have a little bit of fun here today in terms of, when we're going to discuss applications. So I wanted to break down basically application in 3 different buckets, right? So I wanted to have one bucket for families, one bucket for small business. Hey, look, thumbs up. That's good. And the third one was for inheritance, right? So I wanted to have 3 buckets discussion today, and then really go through different type of applications that are possible, on the wallet front with these governance that are when it's going to be launched. So now I know you've got something to share with us. So why don't you take it from here?
Yes, 100%. So I mean, when I was studying governance, since I like to visualize things, I built this little application myself. Can you see it?
Yes. Do you mind a little bit zooming it, please? I can see it, but yeah, it'll be better if you zoom it.
No, I think I can't really zoom it more than this because it's like taking the full screen.
That's fine. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, that's cool.
Okay. So as I was saying, studying covenants, I really need to visualize stuff. So what did I do? I took the constraint we were talking before, the constraint present in covenants right now. So the access control, who can spend, who can receive, and a fixed receiver. The amount rules, so the amount cap and the daily limit, the amount cap per transaction and a daily limit that you can spend in a day. And then some time conditions, so such as the time lock. And here I added also some other stuff that is like not really a condition built on covenants, but it's something that we should pair with covenants to create more complex use cases, basically. So like something more that we are adding on top of it as Castle. Okay. This being said, as you can see in the interface, you have like the active constraint. As soon as we will add them, they will be visualized over here. And then we have the transactions detail, from to the amount, the time. And here we also have the attacker box. So what if someone trying to attack this specific covenant, what happens when the conditions are in place? Simply, for instance, we drop the spender constraint. It is connected to the covenant. And then you can see that if the attacker tries to, let's say, says Bob spend these UTXOs, it will get rejected because it's not Alice. Simply like that.
So Leo, you
Yeah.
build this application, like little application to understand covenants. Is it
Yeah.
public to everyone?
Actually, I never thought about making this public, but if it's get interesting as it was for me while building, so why not? Why not? We can discuss it later on. I can send it. It is quite straightforward actually. It's like one HTML page and a few CSS files. So yeah, why not? Why not? I think it will be helpful from an educational point of view. Before people actually use covenants in real life,
That's right.
even in testnet, they can just like play around with this.
Yes, I think it's just um, it just looks very pleasing, and it helps you understand the relationship and how things will move.
Yeah.
So I mean, straight away that was the thing came to me is like, hey, it should be open to public. People will be able to understand governance very quickly if this was open.
Yeah.
Something for you to think about.
Okay. Nice. Okay. So let's say you were talking about the three brackets. Do you have anything in mind with which you would start with?
I think firstly, I just want to understand this layout before we get into application, right? So you've got
Okay.
mount rules, you've got spender addresses, right? And then you've got in conditions, right? So these are the constraints
that lives inside covenants. You can set like constraint on the addresses, which are the first bracket here. You can set constraints on amounts, which are these ones, and you can set constraint on time, which is only this one. I will go to this one later on because it's not really a thing related to covenants. But when I build the app, I actually didn't put enough attention, and I will need to move it away from like some sort of like let's consider it an external trigger.
I see.
For recursive conditions. Yeah. So whenever we move this with this constraint here, it's basically as we were adding constraint to the UTXO. So we are building the covenant in this way.
I see. For that specific wallet. So if I'm the person who owns the wallet, I'm building the covenants for myself. Cool. So why don't we take this example? Let's start with the first one, right? Which was families. What are the most common things that you've thought about that could be used by the families?
Well, if you think about a family, yeah, you can have like a share pool for of funds for the household's expenses. So today, you don't have a real way to share the funds unless you either give them access to a full wallet, but maybe you don't want to do that with your kids. And maybe you need to send periodically funds, so you need always to be there. Like, okay, now I need to open your wallet every now and then. In this way, what you can do is like basically, okay, let's say you have the spender here, you have a receiver's whitelist, which might be your wife, your kids, your parents, whoever. You have this one might be another wallet of yourself that is dedicated to sending over spending these UTXOs. And let's say you can put a daily limit they can spend. And here it is your covenant build. Let's order it a little bit like this. So let's say this is you, the address whitelisted to spend these UTXOs that will send over a certain amount of funds to these receivers. Okay. And this is how you might construct these shared pool of funds for the household expenses, basically.
I see.
So
What?
it is quite interesting.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, carry on. I've got a few things to add, but yeah, please.
No, I mean, it is quite interesting because as you can see, this doesn't limit to this constraint. We can, for instance, add a time lock and say, okay, this shared pool will activate only on a specific date, which can be like the first of the month.
Right. Or
Like
birthdays, right? Someone's birthday, they get.
birthdays, yeah, yeah. Let's say, do you want to give it? Do you want to give some to your son? You can just like say, okay, this UTXO can be spent only by my son address at this giving time, which is his birthday, and that's done. So as you can see, if an attacker tries to attack this, well, actually, let's say we remove this, they can't because it's the only one that can spend it is your son. Plus, if we put a time lock, they won't even be able to do it before this time.
Right.
And it's quite interesting how you can combine all these conditions together to create, I don't know, whatever use case you might think of.
Yeah. So that's fascinating. That's fascinating. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but you don't have access to these type of tools even on the wallets on Ethereum, which is supposed to be programmable, right?
No, you can't really interact and place conditions on funds. You might be able to create a smart contracts
You
that
might
allows you to
separate.
set separate smart contracts, but then you always have the problem of like who is the builder of the smart contract and who ensures me that they don't actually modify the smart contract later on. They do a proxy update and they steal all the funds that we placed in the contract to be spent by a certain amount of addresses, right?
Yeah,
So in this
exactly.
way, covenants are like they have a moat on this side because they are like set in stone, as I've said before. Only those people that are like appointed as the spenders can spend that specific UTXO that you have created in the past.
Yeah. Yeah. And as you say, it's not, you can build a smart contract on Ethereum to do these type of things, but it's not embedded on a consensus.
They are running on the EVM, so they're still verified by
That's true.
by the consensus layers. But you will still need some. So it's such a complicated thing, and there are like so many nuances that you can do while building a smart contract that I would find it difficult as a wallet builder to place all the possibilities in one interface. You will need to have like a very, very complicated UI UX that maybe won't fit the simple mobile UX that we have now. Space is very limited in mobile, so you need to be very careful. Unless you can do something that the users can complete in a few actions, like a few steps, you shouldn't pursue that because it will actually kill the features before it actually useful for someone, for anybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
would say in this case, having this limited set of instructions for the moment is like a plus because we have to focus only on a few things. And as you can see, it became quite natural to me to build it as a block kind of like drag and drop thing in here. I don't know if you're familiar with like code blocks for kids. There are like these softwares that allow kids to learn programming by just like drag and dropping like code blocks, like as if you were playing with Legos, right? And I think this is quite intuitive as an interface. We will have to see how we can, let's say, maybe export this kind of interface in the mobile, and how people will do that. Also, because here I just like hard coded informations, right? But in an actual wallet, you will need to set the address, you will need to set the time, you will need to set maybe the receivers, the spending caps, and so on.
Before we move onto the small to medium sized businesses, I wanted to ask what happens if someone gets the time wrong, right? They wanted to unlock certain funds on a certain day next year, but they put the time to 10 years in the future. What happens?
That's gonna be quite a problem actually. You can set like actually a fixed backup wallet, an inheritance wallet, with which, let's say after this amount of time of inactivity, let's say a year or so, transfer these funds over this new wallet. So let's say, okay, this is the covenant we have. Let's say the time is too long, and we have this authorized cash, which is my backup wallet. I will need to have something that actually takes care of checking uh, the not this spender, but something else, some kind of like recursive program that will check the wallet and say, okay, this covenant has not been spent for this amount of time. There might be something wrong. So in this case, we have our agent. Let's call it an agent, but it might be also a very, very simple program that checks every now and then if there has been some changes in this UTXO. If nothing happens for a specific amount of time, it will just trigger, because it has the ability to trigger, because it's like the spender, the one that can spend the UTXO, and transfer all the funds only to the receiver address. So let's say this part get compromised, the attacker won't be able to transfer fund unless it transferred to your backup account. So this is like an additional layer of security, right? You can compromise parts such as like program software, but the rules are set in stone. Nobody can actually take advantage of it anymore.
Right. I guess it only works if you actually set up the backup wallet up front. In case you didn't have
Yeah.
backup wallet, then you can't
I'm
do it.
afraid.
Yeah.
I'm afraid you should. This is why you should be very careful when you set up rules. And this is actually a good. You touched a very good point, because whenever this is our job. So when the user will need to set the time, when they will need to fire the transaction that compose the covenant, they will need to confirm what they are doing, because they will need to know. They will need to understand that this is like set in stone. They won't be able to change it afterwards. And it's kind of like interesting when you are like a wallet builder, because a lot of people, you integrate stuff and then users comes to you asking, why is this not working, and how do and I need to explain them, listen, there's like these services on the background that is not working anymore, so we are waiting them to restore it to make it work again. Same as with covenants, if it's like, okay, I said this, how can I revert it back? And I'm like, you can't. But the problem is, I should be the one making sure that they don't come back to me asking, how can I change it? I should make sure that the UX is so straightforward and so clear that they understand they are making some irreversible changes. For instance, when a few days ago I had a user come into our Telegram chat saying that he doesn't really like the fact that on Castle, to send money, you have to swipe to confirm. Okay, and that decision is actually quite thought, because whenever you have just a button that you fires and you confirm the transaction, if you made a mistake last minute, you won't be able to reverse that. While if you're swiping, you still have some time to pull your finger from the screen, and the operation won't like complete. So I think, like, those little details that you might think like, why did they do this in this way, are actually something like that we really think of when we consider the user's behavior and our behavior ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think this is a beautiful, beautiful discussion we're having, because, with this is powerful, right? It's a power to the user, but with power comes responsibility. So I think what you're saying is you have to really learn and be responsible for the funds, like people did early on with learning, keys and, addressing everything people had to learn. This is brand new to them, right? Be careful when these are launched. You can lose or lock your funds for a very long time, if not forever.
Correct.
Yeah. So let's move on to the second category that I wanted to discuss, which is businesses. Let's talk about what can businesses do, right? Like typical business use cases are different, right? Like for example, the biggest payroll, right? I have salaries to pay.
Correct. Actually, I was thinking about a very good use case, at least for companies based in China and in Hong Kong, like us. So you know that the last week was Chinese New Year, so like it's the biggest holidays they have here, And during this period, in companies and between families, family members, let's say you're in a company environment, your boss gives you what is called a LIC, which is like a red note with some money in it to each of the employees, right? And what our boss did is here, he actually used CAS to send us over this LIC, right? So yeah, so I would say, okay, let's say you're my boss and you want to build this like as soon as Chinese New Year hit, and maybe we are all on holidays, so we don't have the time. We don't have the time. We don't want to engage with the wallets. Our boss say, okay, I have all my employees' addresses here, and I want to transfer a fixed amount of cash per transaction to each of these receivers. And I don't know, I want to do it on the first day of Chinese New Year. And this is how they will compose the transaction. Let's say they don't want it to do it from their personal addresses. They want to send over some money to the company address, which is this spender here. And now they have the perfect solution for sending over this LIZ. And this not only applies to LIZ, actually, it applies also to it could also apply to payrolls, but in a slightly different way. So payrolls are like recursive, so you need to find a way to do it recursively. And unfortunately, there's not a built-in scheduler inside Covenants, right? So you need to have another thing, such as like a agent trigger, like before, that is the one that not only is able to spend, but also is able to say, okay, this is the specific date where I should send the payroll over, and they will just like repeat the operation for the amount of time that you set. But this is like outside the scope of Covenants itself.
Right.
So it's like something that you need to build on the top of it. So this is like the infrastructure we were also discussing before. This is going to be on us to build like this layer of automation, let's say, and then allow the users to, and then also tell the user, educate the users in telling them, listen, this is something that we do on top of it to allow you to build different use cases with more complexity.
Right.
But yeah, it's like it's quite interesting. And maybe, I don't know, in the future, they will have some ways to do it directly on chain. So it will repeat itself. But at that point, you will also need something to stop it after a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, this is like a crawler, or what is the word I'm looking for?
Yeah.
That just runs
a cron job.
Cron job. That's the word I was looking
Yeah.
for. It's a cron job
Yeah.
that recursively looking for that, or trying to look for the date to trigger that event, right? Or certain task.
Exactly.
And so you're saying right now, because it's not on chain, the wallet will have to design these cron jobs essentially for this type of application, right? And also you have to stop it, because an employee leaves the business, then you have to be able to, you should be able to stop paying for them, right? Rather than keep paying for them.
Exactly. You can't really, yeah, this is another good point, actually. I didn't really thought about this. So let's say even these addresses should at some point have some kind of connections with some kind of constraint as well, so that if something happens, the money won't be lost. There has to be like some careful design on how businesses use this, but it's certainly a good thing. For instance, even if you have like a normal business, and let's say you have a supplier, and that supplier is like sending you stuff monthly, and you always pay the same amount to the same supplier, right? You have, again, your spender address is your company address, and let's say this is your supplier, so it's always this address, and you want to send him this amount of cash every time you do a transaction to him, and then you can pair it with the trigger with the cron job. Okay, let's say the cron job watches, it tells your spender to send the money over to this authorized address. How much? This amount, and that's done. And you can do it once whenever you have to let's say pay an invoice, or you can make it like recursive, as we were saying before.
Yeah. and a backup wallet also in case it's inactive somewhere.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You can also I don't have any more constraint, but let's say, okay, this is the list of your supplier. This is your backup wallet. This is your company one. This is the amount you want to send, and here you have the trigger. You have your nice trigger.
Yeah.
This is
That's a
it.
beautiful use case. Yeah.
I think like those company related ones are the most interesting one actually.
Yeah.
Even between like let's say different Kaspa projects. Let's say you want to do a collaboration, right? And you say I will commit this amount of CAS as soon as we meet this condition. We got this feature release in this date, and let's say the payment can be automatized with this. Or if you do a campaign and you said, okay, at this date we will distribute X amount of cash to the most engaging wallets of the last 30 days. And then you have the time to like actually collect the wallet addresses and everything. You compose the UTXO, and then the people that actually be the more engaging they will be able to see, okay, this covenant is there, so I'm gonna get my cash in this day.
Obviously, with these rule-based stuff, right? Like there is no end to it, right? I mean, it's all possible, but with using some sort of different infrastructure on top of the basic governance.
Exactly. You will need to compose to have multiple layers. Ideally, what we could do is like set up like some sort of framework, some sort of let's say we already have on our side a Castle SDK to work to easily integrate the extension wallet in different applications. We could extend that SDK in order to be also a layered SDK for covenants. Okay, you have this interface to, let's say, create cron jobs. You have this other one to create like more complex conditions. And I don't know, maybe we could also make use of layer twos at some point to set some conditions, and then like fall back on the layer one to trigger the covenants.
That's fascinating. Why don't we jump on to the third category, which I wanted to discuss, which is inheritance.
This is similar to what we were talking before, actually, when we were talking about the payrolls. So the same way you don't have any way to like check on the activity of a wallet from within a covenant. This is the same way. You will need a cron job, an external cron job that look at the wallet. So let's say we have our cron job looking at the wallet. The cron job is let's say, okay, this is the covenant, but let's say this cron job is connected directly to the wallet that is creating the covenant, right? Okay, I am the creator of this covenant that says, okay, this amount should be transferred to this inheritor, like this heir. This is the heir. This is the total amount of my wallet. If and this is the condition that the cron job should check, the agent should check. If the wallet doesn't have any activity for 3 years, 5 years, more, just like perform the transaction and send to the authorized to the heir this amount of cash, which can be all. You can even have multiple heirs, right? So you can have like, okay, this is the amount of heirs that you want to send the token to, and you can compose this in this way. And this is actually also something that is like should be taken care of by the KP20, where you have covenant IDs. So if multiple UTXO consolidations happens, how do you know that this UTXO was like connected to the next one? And this is where they actually come into rescue. There's like some 32 bytes IDs that flags the relationship between each covenants, so they don't get lost, and there's no like, and they can fulfill the purpose even after a long time, basically.
Yeah, yeah. So just quickly, I mean, this is obviously very important, especially for big wallets that are, that want some backup, right? for
Yeah,
many.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
But why
yeah.
do you need a cron job? Because you could literally have a timer, right? You can set up a time
Oh
unlock.
yeah, totally, totally, totally. Let's say if you want to do it like based on time directly, it's very simple. You just like set the time, and that's it. I would say that it's not even like it can be also, as you said, a sort of backup, a
Mm,
sort of like security measure. I always, let's say, how it happens when your bank account asks you to change the password because it's sometimes has passed. You can do the same with the wallet. Yeah, yeah. You can have, okay, time lock after this. When this time is reached, like move all the funds to my next wallet, and uh, and that's pretty much it. And I will have the access to this wallet, and I will continue to do this recursively. So I will keep building this UTXO as long as I have this. Actually, this is something very, very. I think this is the best use case for me, uh, because I live abroad. I am like kilometers away also from my secrets, maybe. Uh, I live like, keys here and there, offline. What if something happens? What if I lose the access to my device, and I cannot go back to Italy to get my secrets back? At least this will give me some timeline from where I will be able to recover my funds before going back to home and restore the original wallet, right?
yeah. Oh, that's the one thing that I think Bitcoin community has definitely discussed a lot. Now, I want to wrap this up, Leo. Any specific thing on the governance, you want to add on, or anything new perhaps that you thought about that we haven't discussed so far? Type of application that you built on top of what we already discussed?
Well, I mentioned about like cron jobs, like interacting with covenants. I think those are the word cron job is quite a simplification of what at Castle we aim to build with covenants. I think we are in a time right now where there's not only human actors having a wallet and taking care of funds, right? And these constraints are actually quite useful if you have something transacting on your behalf, like an agent. Yeah, what if you are using your wallet and you're setting up some, let's say, trading strategies on Zillows, but you don't want it to you to you don't want to do it with your main funds. You will need to send some funds to, let's say, a covenant, and say, okay, this is my agent, and the agent can only use this amount of money per transaction with this daily limit to, I don't know, trade tokens, and perform the operations in Zillows, like staking or whatever else. This is like layer 2, but in the future, maybe when we will have vprogs, we will be able to compose this better, or like, okay, my agents wants to do the UTXO consolidation, and this is the amount of like money they can move to do so. They need some fees, they can use this. I'm quite interested in how we can compose covenants with agents, actually. And I think that's like a natural way to evolve the wallets in 2026, 2027, and beyond. So definitely I will keep an eye on how we can expand this and make sure that it become even more easy and secure for people to interact with these primitives that they are giving us.
Yeah. Leo, look, this has been amazing, amazing discussion. I truly enjoyed it. Thank you so much for your time. I'm looking forward to our next chat.
Thank you so much, Angit, and see you next time.